This question on heritage is very important to me. This is our heritage, our identity. We must preserve it and teach it to the next generation.
They're embracing the talent of our ancestors and are mastering the values and etiquette of falconry. They're happy to embrace this hobby because it is their father's and grandfather's hobby, our family's legacy. Now if you ask them, they prefer to stay in the desert than go back to the city.
Hello and welcome to Qatar 365. I'm Laila Humaira, and on this episode, we take a look at the centuries-old fine arts, handicrafts, and traditions of the Arab world that's being kept alive against the backdrop of modern living. For centuries, these textiles have kept Bedouin tribes warm. Each piece is woven in a style that's called al-Sadu, or the art of weaving horizontally. Sadu weaving was a part of every Bedouin woman's life for many generations. But today, the skill is at risk of being forgotten. I got to meet the people behind an initiative that's aiming to make the art of Sadu live on. Centuries of deep history and generations of expertise lie in the hands of Maitha Said Abu Salah. She's among a rare group of master Sadu weavers in the Arabian Peninsula. In Qatar alone, there are less than 40 of them left. Maitha has been weaving for more than 30 years and learnt it the same way as the women who came before her.
My experience began at home. I saw my mother working on Sadu and my grandmother, as well as the women in the neighbourhood. I took this heritage from them.
Sadu masters make it look easy, but this style of weaving is a labour of love, from the yarns chosen to the geometric pattern design and the colours. Each piece can take a day, 50 days, or a whole year to make, depending on how intricate the design is and its size. For hundreds of years, Sadu textiles kept Bedouin tribes warm through cold nights in the desert. But the skill, which can only be learned by sight, is facing extinction. The ancient style of Sadu weaving is so rare that it was inscribed in UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage List in 2020 as an art form that needs urgent safeguarding. So efforts to empower and support these Sadu weavers have stepped up to protect the art from being lost forever. In a race against time, Caravan Earth Foundation set up a creative residency program with Qatar's Hinat Salma Farm. Joining forces helped widen the search to find as many Sadu weavers as possible.
They've welcomed us to their own homes. We sat with their children, with their families, and they really shared their whole life experiences and the spiritual wisdom that has been endowed in them through generations.
Caravan Earth launched Sadu workshops to give the public a chance to learn the skill, while other programs focused on supporting the weavers so they can continue honing their craft.
The most important thing is to be in an organisation that supports craftswomen. It enhances our abilities. If there is no support, Sadu will die.
To keep Sadu relevant in today's world, Caravan Earth thought of ways to inject fresh ideas into the art, aimed at empowering the weavers to find new ways of practicing their skill.
Sadu is a beautiful textile that can be revitalized and used in our day-to-day life. This is why we have a team of people who work with product development, also finding new yarns that we can introduce to them that are natural, that can also give them variety of different designs that they can come up with, but always sticking to the principles and values of that textile and what it means and what it symbolizes.
And it's through weaving these threads of old and new ideas together that the Caravan Earth Foundation hopes will make the art of Sadu last through the test of time. At the peak of the Islamic civilization, Arab swords were considered one of the most feared weapons on the battlefield. They came in different shapes, with some having two sharp tips. Sword making is such a significant part of Arab history and tradition that one of Qatar's newest hotels, here behind me, was designed to emulate two scimitar swords. But as I found out from one of Qatar's leading sword stores, there's more to the art of sword making than just its shape and design.
Thank you so much for inviting us to your shop today. Firstly, can you explain the significance of swords in Arabic culture?
The sword is an integral part of the Arab heritage in general and Qatari heritage, especially because the sword is considered a symbol of pride, dignity and honor. In the past, swords were used for battles and fighting. However, its use in the state of Qatar now is for the traditional dance Ada, for diplomatic gifts, gifts for ministers and embassies for decoration, for example. It is considered the most beautiful and best gift to give someone.
And as the world modernizes and people forget how to create things with their hands, what's your hope for sword making and sword collecting for the future?
Swords that are made by hand are better and more beautiful because the sword is a piece that can be inherited. Modern technology and giant machines can make 1,000 swords, big quantities, but the quality won't be as good as a handmade sword. The handmade piece cannot be reproduced. For that reason, it is rare and the person who owns it must preserve it. Let's see some swords in silver and gold and the differences in them, of course. These are some silver, gold, copper, silver-plated and copper swords. Each sword has special inscriptions in a special design and a special curvature. For example, I'll start with the most famous sword in the state of Qatar, which is called the Founder's Sword. The sword belonged to His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Jassim, known as the founder of modern Qatar, may God rest his soul. Of course, the sword is a copy of the sword which belonged to the founder's son, Sheikh Abdullah bin Jassim. The silver-plated gold is decorated with emeralds and rubies. We can make a gold-plated hilt that could also be made with ivory upon request.
The 14th International Falcons and Hunting Festival took place earlier this year. Known locally as Marmi, it brings together regional falconers as their prize birds compete in the hunting competition. Adil Halim went along to find out just how locals aim to keep the popular pastime soaring for years to come.
Deep in the Qatari desert, hundreds of falconers from across the region gather, prized birds in hand. They're participating in this year's Marmi Festival, a tournament with deep ties to original Qatari culture.
Since 2011, we have been participating in the Marmi Festival. We didn't begin as a team, we started as individuals, 4 to 5 people. Each of us used to prepare his falcon or 2 falcons and go to Marmi. We used to hunt from the beginning of Marmi. A few years ago, the tournament developed into a team effort. You build a team and participate in Marmi. All these folks belong to the Golden Team. The reason we were given that name is because we're known for achieving something new every year.
The festival aims to promote the UNESCO-recognized heritage sport of falconry. Described as a living human heritage, falconry can be traced back 4,000 years. It's an ancient tradition that's become an annual tradition. Hamad Said Al Mari has never missed a Marmi festival in its 14-year history. And in addition to making sure his falcons stay on course, he's also training his sons to carry on a family tradition that's been passed on for generations.
They're practicing a hobby they love. Carrying the falcon, releasing the falcon, teaching and training the falcon. They were raised watching us being falconers, so they followed in our footsteps. All in all, it is a hobby you can't force your son to like. He would take it by nature. Now, if you ask them, they prefer to stay in the desert than go back to the city. They prefer to take care of their falcons instead.
While they have all the same tech gadgets as their peers, Al-Marri encourages the youngsters in his family to go offline as much as possible. And it seems to be working. His 15-year-old nephew, Saeed, has spent a decade learning the tools of the trade.
Ever since I was 5 years old, I've been passionate about falcons. My father and my uncles taught me about them. I learned how to raise them and how to train the falcon to catch the pigeons. I'm thankful for that.
We have from Iran, because Iran very close here from Qatar. We have from Mongolia, we have from Pakistan, we have from Egypt, Syria, like this.
Mohammed Al-Qubaisi says the falcons found here come from nearby countries. He spends a month and a half at the Marmi Festival, making sure everything goes according to plan. His love for the sport also came as a rite of passage, passed down from his elders.
I took this sport from my father and grandfather, and before my father and grandfather used this falcon and used salugi for catch something to eat. Catch the hubara, catch the rabbit, catch the gazelle, catch everything to eat. And from there, from the past and now, and also from the future, this sport, they stay until the end.
And if the Al-Marri family is any indication, the sport will continue to soar in Qatar for years to come.
It's been fun showing all the different ways Qatar is keeping centuries-old traditions alive and showing how a modern society holds on to its cultural heritage. And that's all the time we have on this episode. For more, do check out Euronews.com and connect with us through our hashtag. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Qatar 365.